The Chancellor Rachel Reeves says she faces a dire inheritance with the public finances, with the economy. Is that really the case? Well, just recently we've got numbers through on the economy which suggest maybe it's not quite that bad. This is showing you economic growth, comparing industrialised economies, the US, Japan, Canada, France. This is for last year, critically. And look, the UK was one of the weakest in the G7, over there, 0.1%. Now look at the first 6 months of this year, OK? So the latest data, and wow, look at that. The UK up to the fastest in the first 6 months of this year, economy growing in the G7, faster even than the US and the rest. So a lot of people look at this and they say, it's not that dire, frankly, is it? But now look at the public finances, OK? And there are various different ways of measuring this. We're talking about basically what the government is bringing in taxes and spending. This is the bringing in side of it, OK? And the Office of Budget Responsibility expects taxes to go up and up and up in terms of the amount that's been raised cumulatively over the year to about just over £1 trillion, OK? So that's money coming in. That's the expectation. Now let's just zoom in on the first few months of the year, because that's the data we've got, and work out whether that has actually happened. So this red line is what has actually happened. And it's pretty much bang on. And that's important. It's actually a little bit below. That's important because if you thought the economy was going gangbusters, you'd expect that line to be a bit higher because people are making more money and they're paying more in taxes. But that's not happening. But what is happening, OK, is something with spending. So we're doing the same thing with spending. That line is how much the government spends gradually over the course of the year, 1.1 trillion, a little bit more than it makes in money. That's why we have deficits. And now look at what's actually happened. So we'll zoom in, just looking at the first few months of the year. Red line is what has actually happened. And it's a different pattern here. Look, that red line is slightly above where the OBR thought it would be around this time of year. How much above? It's about £9 billion higher. Now, that may not sound like much, but first of all, we're still early in the year, only 4 months of the data, so it could get worse. And secondly, well, remember £9 billion, OK, because it's a significant number when it comes to this. We're talking now about the government's fiscal rules. It's got a number of fiscal rules, and perhaps the most biting of them is that it needs to get the national debt, that's what this line is, the higher that is, the more we have in debt as a percentage of GDP. It needs to get that falling by the 5th year of the forecast horizon, so in 5 years' time. And right now, if I zoom in, you can see it's just about falling from 93.2% of GDP down to 92.9% of GDP. Not by much. And how much is that in cash terms? This bit here, I'll just have to zoom in so you can properly see. This bit here, it's £9 billion. So essentially, we have already spent the headroom in the first 4 months of this year, which is why the Chancellor believes there are going to be more tax rises, more spending cuts to come in that budget.